Hi everyone, I'm Tim.
And I'm Kat.
So today we're going to talk about small EVs. Why are we going to do that then?
Well, because I currently have a Fiat 500e that we have had for about 18 months. We got it on a 3-year lease through Tim's salary sacrifice scheme.
Salary sacrifice through my work.
And so obviously we do have a little while left to run on that lease. But the reason we went for a lease in the first place was to give us a bit of time to see what options we liked, for more things to come on the market.
Yeah.
There haven't really been too many options.
No.
At that point, there weren't too many small EVs that fit our requirements.
Yeah, so we were after a small EV, mostly for Kat's commute, for her to pop to the shops and to go to work and back. But as of a couple of years ago, there were a few options, but not that many, and most of them were pretty pricey.
Yeah.
And the second-hand market wasn't super good at the time. So we thought, well, we'll go for a lease for 2 or 3 years. And hopefully by then, a few more options will have appeared on the market. And I think we're more or less at that point now, aren't we?
Yeah, and probably earlier than we thought, which is why we thought, well, we have got 18 months left on the lease, but there's nothing stopping us coming out of that earlier if some good options are available.
Yeah.
So, we thought we'd start having a look.
So there's a small financial penalty for stopping the lease early, but we think that if we purchased an EV, actually the fact that we wouldn't then be paying monthly, effectively monthly lease payments, then it will actually work out financially worthwhile anyway. So what we thought we'd do in this video is run through a list of possible small EV options that we've been looking at based on our requirements, and we'll very quickly run through those, give our opinion, and at the end we'll say what we're thinking of doing, not necessarily set in stone, but also then ask, have we missed any that you might be familiar with that we haven't mentioned? We may have already discounted some of them, obviously, for various reasons, so it's possible we've already considered some of those, but have discounted them.
Yeah, but please mention anything.
But mention anything you think we've missed despite that. So anyway, I'll run through real quick. I'll put this up on the screen just so you can see what we're doing. We've got various criteria that are useful, we think are important.
Yep. We'll touch on that in a minute.
Yep.
If you just run down the list.
So I'll run through it real quick.
Yep.
So we've got the Fiat 500e, which obviously we already have.
Yep.
Fiat 600e, the Dacia Spring, the Mii Electric, the ID2, which is not yet out, the Cupra Raval, likewise, the E-Up, the Seat Mii Electric, Smart Electric, Citroen EC3, Fiat Panda, that's the new one they brought out, the BYD Seagull, Hyundai Inster, Renault 5, Renault Zoe, Vauxhall Corsa E, and Vauxhall Mokka-e, and of course my personal favourite, the Microlino, which we've spoken about in a previous video, but we'll briefly mention that again here for completeness. So how have we come up with this shortlist, shall we say?
Yeah, and it's not even all that short, is it? I mean, obviously some of these aren't, as you've mentioned, aren't actually out yet.
No,
but
it's more than we were thinking.
So in terms of criteria, size has been the big one, because I don't like to drive a big car. I just wouldn't feel comfortable driving it. I'm used to a small car. So that's definitely been a limit on.
Yeah, very few
length and
small
width.
Cars have been available. So this is the first time I think we've been able to actually draw up a shortlist of anywhere even remotely close to this sort of size, which is
so
great.
We were looking at, obviously the Fiat 500e is, we've got the dimensions of that.
Yep.
I previously drove a Honda Jazz, again that size, perfectly fine.
Yep.
That's probably almost the top end of what I would want size wise.
So the Honda Jazz, for reference, is just about 4 meters long. So that was our benchmark. 4 meters or less would be ideal. About 1.7, 1.8 meters wide, excluding wing mirrors. That would be about the limit. We also wanted a sensible range.
Yes, to go to work and back is very short range.
22-mile round trip, I think.
22-mile round trip, and down to the shops, which is way less than that. Yeah. So those kind of drives, you could have a very, very short range.
Yeah.
But we do occasionally at the moment, because our other car is a petrol, we do occasionally use the electric. We use the Fiat 500e to go to family and friends, and I use it occasionally to go to cross-stitch retreat days and meet up with my stitchy buddies, and I would like to be able to do that without having to charge. It's not a huge issue if I do, but it would be much nicer for those journeys to have at least a range that for most of those times we could get there and back without having to charge.
So the Fiat 500 has got a usable range somewhere in the 150 mile ballpark. So that's the sort of benchmark again we were looking at somewhere around that, preferably a bit longer. Up to 200 miles would be good. Anything more than that would be a bonus.
I think less than the Fiat 500e is probably a no.
Yeah, so actually there's two Fiat 500e variants with different sized batteries. So we were looking at the longer range.
So I think 150 miles ish that's a good ballpark. Much less than that, I think that would probably wouldn't suit particularly well.
And you were quite keen on the fact that the Fiat has got a decent motor for the size, so it's actually quite nippy, which you quite enjoyed, isn't it?
I do. I find it gives me confidence that I can drive, I can get into gaps, and just the responsiveness of it and the general poke of it is quite nice. It does give me confidence, and it doesn't have to be as nippy as that. But again, I think a lot less than that would be a problem. So none of these are completely set in stone, really. And you've got factors like price as well. We'll come into it.
Price, power, range, size are the main criteria, really.
And styling. I mean, you can't get away from it. I know it's not super important, but I mean, the Fiat 500e is a beautiful looking car. Most people will agree on that. But I used to drive a Honda Jazz. It's not the most exciting. Yes, I've enjoyed having a really nice looking car.
Bright green though, it's quite.
It was bright green. I quite liked that. I do quite like a slightly more interesting colour. But I think styling is nice. It doesn't have to be exciting, but it has to be a factor in there. And of course, the other thing with that, as you'll see when we look at the cars, it's really personal preference as well.
Absolutely.
What we might like the look of, other people might not, and vice versa. So
well, shall we go through them? I mean, we've already spoken about the Fiat 500e quite a bit. That's obviously the first one on our list. 3.6 metres long, 1.7 metres wide, range of about 150 miles. So I'll put these up on the screen. A lot of these I've got the basic stats from a website called evdatabase.org. It's really good for giving you just that overall feel for the type of car with the range and the dimensions and the power and all that stuff. There's a couple that aren't out yet, which don't have entries in the EV database, but that's fine. I've found a different source for that information, but I'll show all of these from the EV database, and you can see what we're talking about here.
And you're going to put some pictures up on screen as well while we're chatting, just to show people.
That's what I mean. So the Fiat 500e's got a power of 87 kilowatts, which gives it a 0 to 62 mile an hour time of 9 seconds, which is pretty decent actually for a small car like that. But it's quite pricey new. So what we were thinking basically with this list, because a lot of these are going to be quite new to the market, there isn't really a second-hand market for them. So our options are either a sort of reasonably priced new small car, or maybe a second-hand one of the existing ones that have been around for a few years. So the Fiat 500 falls into that category. It's been around for a few years. So although it's pricey new, 28 grand typically, or more even.
There's some really good
second-hand deals. So that's something we're looking into. We'll mention more about that later.
Yeah, I think when we come into our summary at the end, we'll come back to that. So but I think just while we're talking about that one, I know we want to do this fairly briefly, but what I would say is that it's been a fantastic benchmark. Because there is so much I love about it, and there's very few things that I don't love. There are a few little things, but they are really niggly things, like silly things like trying to turn the heated seats on is on the screen and not on a physical button.
Nice
and it's one of those ones, I don't mind stuff on the screen, some things, but for some reason I find it really hard to get that heated seat. I just find it really difficult to do. I don't know why. And so it's, obviously I won't go through everything, but it is small things like that I don't particularly think are amazing about the Fiat 500e.
I'm glad that physical buttons are coming back into fashion. I thought that the move to touchscreens was a terrible mistake. Tesla, you've got a lot to answer for. Physical buttons are so much better when you're, obviously your attention's got to be on the road. You need to be able to find your controls quickly and easily. But physical buttons, there is no substitute for physical buttons.
I guess that's also slightly in our factors of looking at car as well. It will potentially be important.
Right,
but anyway,
so let's get through
we love the Fiat 500e.
Yeah, we've got a lot to get through, so let's get through them. Fiat 600e, basically a bigger version. It doesn't look as nice, I don't think. Really?
No, it doesn't. And it's bigger. It's probably slightly too
It's actually
big.
slightly longer than 4 metres, 4 metres 17 centimetres, so it is on the big side. I think that's too big for us.
I mean, I would say, obviously, looking at that, you've got the rear doors.
That's true.
Obviously, one thing with the Fiat 500e is you've only got you've got two doors on the sides.
Yeah.
So the extra doors would be nice, but I don't think it's going to add anything.
But it's £33,000 new, and there's not going to be any second-hand ones around, so I think that's basically ruled out for size and price straight away.
I think so.
So let's move on quickly to the other end of the spectrum, the Dacia Spring. So people have been raving about this. It is very, very good value. Yes. £15,000 roughly new, seems like. Yeah. The range is okay, slightly more than the Fiat 500, 165 miles.
Yeah.
3.7 metres, so not much bigger actually than the Fiat 500. I was surprised by that.
Really similar actually, isn't it, size-wise?
But the one downside of the Dacia, it's very underpowered. It's only got a 33 kilowatt engine motor, yes. Which means the 0 to 62 time is 19 seconds, which is
over twice as long.
So that is, I mean, it'd be fine if you were just pulling around town.
Yeah.
But part of your drive is on a country road, so
I think I would struggle with that.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, for me, it's not the only downside.
It doesn't.
I'm really sorry, but I do not like the way it looks. I really don't. I'm sure some people will maybe
not
like that. I don't want to, upset anyone, but I'm just not a fan.
No.
I don't love it. I don't think that's a contender.
So, no. Moving on quickly then to the Mini Cupra Electric. So this is the new version. So the Mini Electric has been around a little while. So there are decent second-hand versions. The new Mini Electric that's come out is actually £34,500. That is very pricey.
It is. It's very pretty.
It's a lovely looking car.
It's a lovely looking car.
Very pokey, actually. 160 kilowatts, which gives you a 0-62 time of 6.7 seconds. So that's very quick.
Is that the fastest?
That's the quickest.
That's actually the fastest
of all
on our
of them
list.
on our list here, which is impressive.
Yeah, it's nice. It's
small car, 3.6.
3 doors.
3.86 metres long. Range of 185 miles, which is much better than the early versions, actually.
Yeah.
So that's well worth considering, except for the fact that it's so pricey. In a few years' time, if there was some second-hand ones of that, I can imagine that being a good option.
Apart from the price, I would absolutely. It really ticks.
Yeah.
It ticks all the boxes. Honestly, that would definitely give the Fiat 500e a run.
So for reference, we're looking at my laptop screen in front of us here.
Yes, so I'm looking over
you can see what we can see in front of us when I put these up on the screen.
It's lovely. Apart from the price, it would be a contender.
Very pricey. So next two up here are basically the same car, but they're built on the same platform, but got a different badge on them basically. So the VW ID2. So this isn't coming out for another year or two.
Don't know. It's been coming for a while.
For ages, yeah.
It hasn't actually got here
I've been keeping my eye on the ID2 for a while. I think it's a real contender. It's going to be extremely reasonably priced. Around about £22,000, something in that ballpark. Yeah. It's not completely clear exactly what that price will be, but that's going to fly off the shelves.
I mean, that one, the range, look at that.
Range is really good.
200 plus.
200 plus. Again, not completely nailed down.
Not nailed down, but it's going to be really good. It's got a lot of poke.
It's nice and powerful.
In that almost comparable with the Mini Electric
166 kilowatts, 0-62 time of basically 7 seconds. Just over 4 metres, 4 metres and 5 centimetres long, 1.8 metres wide, so just about fits in our category there.
Yeah.
And likewise, I personally prefer the look of the Cupra Raval, which is the Cupra version of the ID2. It's using exactly the same platform. I think it looks nicer, much more interesting looking.
You'll have to see it in person, but
the ID2 is a little bit boring looking, but the Cupra Raval looks much more interesting. Essentially the same specs. It might even be a little bit cheaper. Who knows? It looks like it's going to be 20,000-ish. Again, hard to know for sure. I'm sure that price will increase as you add optional extras and such. But that looks like a cracking looking car.
Those two, and of course, let's not forget with the ID2, there is a potential for a GTI version, which could be even more powerful, way more than I would need, to be honest.
That's probably not going to be out until like 2026.
No.
So anyway, we'll talk more about that later.
Those, but they look fantastic. I like the look.
Cupra Raval. I really like the look of that.
Yeah.
Sticking with the Volkswagen cars, the E-Up was one we looked at really early on. Actually, it wasn't available through the salary sacrifice scheme that we got the Fiat 500e through. It's a decent car. Again, it's pretty boring looking. It's
not exciting.
But it's nice and small, 3.6 metres long. That's actually slightly smaller than the Fiat 500.
And I'm looking at the picture there. For being almost exactly the same size, it has got the 5 doors.
5 doors, yeah. Well, 4 doors and a boot.
4 doors and a boot.
Yeah.
But it has got the doors, which the Fiat 500 doesn't.
Small range, 125 miles according to the EV database.
Which is
61 kilowatt motor, basically 12-second 0 to 62 time. But yeah, a bit pricier, 24,000. So you can imagine, like, as soon as the ID2 comes out, nobody's going to be buying the E-Up unless they want something significantly smaller than the ID2.
No, I think that one loses. I think that one for the range.
Yeah, you could probably get a good second-hand one actually, couldn't you? Probably for decent money actually.
Yeah.
And likewise, again the same platform, the Seat Mii Electric, essentially the same as the E-Up, same specs more or less, but a little bit cheaper than the E-Up for the same reason.
Really
it's
similar.
not a VW, so you're
Not
saving
super
a bit.
exciting looking, but
again, small, reasonably priced, probably some good second-hand ones. The Smart Electric, the Smart Fortwo electric.
Yeah.
That would have been great at the time. It's again only 2 seats, but that's okay. That would be all right for your use case.
Yeah, the thing with that one, if it is only 2 seats though, is that we then have 2 cars that are only 2 seats. At least I know the Fiat 500e has. Obviously, yes, you have got the issues of someone shoehorning yourself in the back, but you can get 4 people in there, and we have.
Yeah.
I think losing that would be a problem.
The main downside of the Smart Electric is the range is terrible.
Yes. Yeah.
60 miles if you're lucky. Not super powerful, but 12-second 0 to 60 is fine.
I think the 2 doors and the range. Yeah. That's not happening.
That would be a good little, if you didn't really need it.
I quite like it. I think they're really cute.
Oh, they're brilliant.
I would definitely
cars.
drive one of those. I think they're cute. But
Great idea for a car. I really like microcars generally. That's not really a microcar, it's sort of tiny car, but not what would you would class as a microcar. We'll talk more about that later again. Moving on, the Citroen EC3. This is again on the upper end of our size range, 4 meters just about. I'm not so sure of the styling of this. I'm sure some people would like it.
Ticks the boxes on paper, but I
decent price.
I know
22,000 roughly.
It's that real snub-nosed front that I don't know. Yeah. Not a fan.
Range is okay. Power is decent. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't grab me.
No.
And likewise, the Fiat Grande Panda.
Actually, do you know what? Actually, I think that one might be even worse. I think that one.
They're trying something different with that.
They are.
It doesn't look like a Panda
because people, as I say, people do like different things. It's good to have different options out there. Yeah. I can't see myself driving that.
Similar price, 4 meters long, similar range. I think that's basically the same as the EC3, isn't it? More or less.
Yeah.
I don't know. No. Styling not so keen. Now this one's an interesting one. The BYD Seagull. We didn't know much about this. We watched a couple of videos. It looks really interesting. Like the styling is a bit different to some of the others.
Yeah.
I quite like it.
I quite like it. There's something about this sort of. There's almost a sswooshy bit along the side and a little bit of, rather than being completely flat. Now, the front is quite. I don't know what it is.
Did I hear that the designer of this was actually an ex-Lamborghini designer or something, which you can see it a little bit. I might be wrong about that. That might be.
Is that a different?
No, I think it's this one.
Or was it this one?
Yeah, I think it's this one. Anyway, I like the styling.
Who knows? I like it.
So the Seagull, really good value. It's not out yet, I don't think, which is why I haven't got an EV database page for this. But it's looking to be similar in price to the Dacia Spring, quite reasonably priced, 15,000. Again, it's not super powerful. It's one of the lower powered ones. 0 to 62 time of 13 seconds. So
yes, but compare that back to the Dacia Spring,
which is 19 seconds. So it's significantly stronger motor
Fiat
than
500 9. This one at 13.
You might find it's okay.
Might be okay. So
we're keeping our eyes on that one because that could be a real contender.
Given the price.
Because the options, well, if you're talking Fiat 500e at 28 grand, BYD Seagull at 15 grand.
Yeah. It's definitely one to watch. So we need to see when that one's coming out. But
definitely one to keep an eye on. So we've got next the Hyundai Inster. So I've gone for the long range version here just because the shorter range one was a bit too short range for our purposes. So the long range gives you 180 miles. Yeah. 3.8 meters long. So fits into our size category nicely. 85 kilowatt motors, similar to the Fiat. 10.6 seconds, not 62. 25,000. reasonably priced. I think it's a bit more than we would probably want to spend. And again, I'm not
It's got
so
that
keen on the styling.
the boxier shape, hasn't it?
Yeah.
They're almost more sort of slightly mini SUV.
That's exactly what they're
styling,
going for
isn't
here.
it?
Yeah,
it's
a lot of them
it's
are.
the SUV styling, and I don't know what it is. It just doesn't grab me.
No, I mean, so I prefer.
It will for a lot of people. That's really going to do it for them. So
yeah, we're probably a bit old school. We're 90s, 2000s people. We like the super mini style rather than the mini crossover.
Yeah,
SUV
I think
type.
so.
But you know, maybe that's just showing our age a bit.
Yeah.
But likewise, the Renault 5. Back in the day, the Renault 5 was a nice looking car. This I don't mind this so much.
No.
I think it's okay. It's a bit more in the super mini style, not quite so much of a crossover.
Yeah.
This is the 52 kilowatt hour version again because of the range. Decent range actually, 200 odd miles.
Yeah.
£28,000. Again, it's at the top end. That's probably more than I'd want to spend.
It's not bad. That one I don't mind that one styling wise.
In a couple of years' time, when there's some good second-hand versions of that,
could be a really good car. I think for that one for the range that you can get on
range is good.
That range is good.
Nippy as well. 110,
really nice
110 kilowatt motor, 8 seconds, 0 to 62. So decent. That's one to watch. Probably not for us right now.
Probably not, but probably not new.
So let's go and have a look at the Renault Zoe. Now this one was interesting. So the old school Renault Zoe, there's been like 2 or 3 versions of this now. I think we're up to like third gen, 4th gen. I don't know. It's been around forever. The new one is much bigger than I was expecting. I always consider the Zoe to be quite a tiny car, but this is over 4 meters long, 4 meters and 9 centimeters, which is actually one of the bigger ones we've got on this list.
Is.
I'm surprised by that, but a decent range, 195 miles.
Yeah, that is really good.
But £29,000.
Yeah,
I'm surprised by that.
Again, it looks okay.
They've improved the styling a bit.
Again, there is a real difference. Size doesn't necessarily equal doors at the back.
No, it's only got 2.
So this one has only got.
Has it only got 2?
Or has it only got 2 doors, or can I just not see?
I think it's only got 2 doors.
It's only got 2 doors. That picture.
Yeah,
there's
it's
no
only got 2
handle.
doors. No.
So there doesn't
on.
seem to be.
Or is it a hidden handle?
Oh, maybe it's hidden.
Oh no!
Oh,
look.
hang on.
Yeah.
No, it has got.
Yeah, it's got. Oh, is it a suicide door? Oh, it's a suicide door. Where the back door
opens the other way.
Forwards. Yeah. Interesting.
Okay.
All right.
I was thinking for such a big car to not have the doors. I mean, as I say, it's a minor thing really, but.
Or is it? Or have they just done a cutaway there?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay.
More investigation required. There we go.
I think, to be honest.
You can't see. Oh, there.
There's a little handle there.
No,
I
sorry.
think
It is a standard door.
It is a standard.
Like. Yeah. Anyway, the picture looks
okay.
misleading.
So there is. It's just really well hidden. The handle. That's quite neat, actually.
Yeah, it is neat. All right. Well, the Zoe.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Zoe.
It's too big anyway.
It's probably it's longer than the ID2 or the Cupra Raval. So.
I don't think it's offering anything.
For the money, that's quite high.
Some of the other ones,
yeah, exactly.
Really?
It's the same sort of price as the Fiat 500e, a bit bigger.
Yeah.
So likewise, the Corsa E, Vauxhall Corsa E, just over 4 meters, decent range, 180 miles.
Yeah. Very definitely got rear doors.
That's definitely got rear doors. 80 kilowatt motor, 11.4 seconds, 0 to 62. Yep. But again, super pricey, like 32,500 new. There's got to be decent second-hand versions of that though. Yeah. That's been around a while. I think this might be the newer version. This one says available since October 2023.
So I'm looking at thinking that looks okay. But that won't be what you'd probably get if you're looking at second-hand.
No. Yeah. And just to throw in another Vauxhall, the Mokka-e, I think is too big.
That is
4 meters, 15 centimeters long.
Longest apart from the Fiat 600e, which we've also said is probably
I think
too long.
That's going to be. I mean, I know it's marginal differences, but it makes all the difference. 10 centimeters, 15 centimeters can make all the difference when it comes to parking. And it's again 36,000. That can't be right. That's mad. But it's got a decent motor.
You wouldn't have that over the Corsa.
Not for us.
If you were going for us, if we were going to have one, it wouldn't be the Mokka-e. No. If you were going to look at one, it would be the Corsa E.
No. I mean, that's even greener than our previous Jazz, isn't it? The colour of that one.
I'm quite here for a green car. I think something more interesting that you can find in a car park is,
easy to find.
I think it's quite nice.
Yeah, no harm in that. And finally, the Microlino. So there are a number of micro cars available now, including the Microlino. There's a handful of others. I'm not going to go into all of those. We spoke about the Microlino at length in a previous video. We really like it. Realistically, it's probably not going to be a replacement for the Fiat 500e. If we had enough cash to just throw
it would
basically another 20,000 on a little toy car, that would be brilliant.
Spoiler alert: we don't have that kind of money kicking around.
No, realistically, it's only 2.5 meters long and 1.5 meters wide. It's tiny. I love it. I think it looks brilliant. We've sat in one.
Yeah.
And as a toy car, that would be brilliant. But realistically, I doubt it's going to be a replacement for Kat's car.
No. So, if I only had to go do the work trips, I had to do the round trip to work and down to the shops or something like that, could probably get away with it, but for those times when we might need something a little bit longer range, only 2 seats.
We can't justify 3 cars.
I don't think we could justify it now. Maybe.
We don't have kids, by the way. I should absolutely clarify if you're not aware. Just the 2 of us, so a small car suits us just fine. Microlino would be brilliant for us too, but we couldn't take it on the motorway, so we can't visit family. But just for poodling around and just
there could be space for this in the future, but I think right now it probably isn't an option. Very sad. I'm so sad.
I'd love to have one, but anyway.
I love it.
So given all of those, what are our current plans? I say plans, like all of this is subject to change, obviously. This is just what we're currently thinking based on what we've been looking around at options.
Yes.
So what are our plans based on those options?
Well, unsurprisingly, probably a top contender is another Fiat 500e.
But it wouldn't be a new one, probably.
But probably not a new one.
We can't really justify £28,000-ish.
No, and I think this is... So the big thing at the moment is between a new car, which would have to be one of the cheaper options, or a second-hand car, which obviously won't be one of the new ones because there won't be... they're too expensive new and there won't be second-hand ones.
No.
I think the Fiat 500e, it's been amazing having that. It was, even though we're thinking about coming out the lease early, this was absolutely the right decision to have the lease to give us those options. Yeah. And to give me a taste of the Fiat 500e, which gives us that benchmark, because that's kind of what I'm measuring everything else up against now.
It was the first EV we'd ever driven, long term. So it gave us exactly what we needed in terms of experience and just knowing what we wanted in an EV. And
it ticks so many boxes that it would be really silly for that not to be up there as an option, a second hand. Really good deals around. So
we did have a quick look. We had a quick look on Auto Trader, and actually there's tons around, and a lot of them are very reasonably priced. Like you can easily get one for 15,000 or less, which has only done 5,000 miles. A couple of years old. That's crazy good. So that's what we're thinking is probably something along those lines.
But there's probably, whilst we're looking at the second-hand market, there are probably a couple of others on here maybe that we've talked about.
Yeah.
That, especially as we've gone through here now, because Tim's probably looked at this a bit more than I have, and actually going through it here now, there's a couple of others on there that maybe...
One to keep an eye on, absolutely the BYD Seagull, I think is...
Yes, I was talking about...
Are you talking about second-hand ones?
I'm talking about second-hand ones now. So there are maybe a couple of others that we've mentioned in there. Did you say the E-Up?
The E-Up maybe, but it just doesn't look as nice as the Fiat 500. And if you can get it for a similar sort of price, I don't...
So I think there might be a few others that we might look at second-hand. So I think... Fiat 500e second-hand, or maybe anything else that comes up that takes our fancy within that, versus, as you say, new would be the BYD
that's probably the only other option, really.
It probably is, from a new perspective.
Buying new, I don't think we could really justify the price of a new one of any of these others.
No.
For what is for all intents and purposes, a second car. Replacing my petrol car is probably not going to happen for another couple of years, which then opens up the option of something like the ID2 or the Cupra Raval.
Yeah.
And personally, I think the Cupra Raval is much more interesting looking.
Yeah.
And that would probably be my top pick for 18 months time, 2 years when we come to.
At the moment, I mean, who knows what else might come out in that time? But
there's nothing sort of obviously on the horizon.
No, that one looks like a fantastic pick for switching our other car to an electric,
and that would give
rather than being my car.
Yeah. And that would give us 200 plus miles of range, which immediately opens up a lot. It becomes proper first car territory then, which is ideal. We
still not big enough that I would have a problem driving
No,
it.
you'd be comfortable
I would
driving
still be
that.
comfortable
It's no
driving
bigger
it.
than the Jazz. It's a tiny bit bigger than the Jazz.
Yeah,
Like
but I think I'd be fine. So yeah, that gives us two really good, solid options. So
that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what we're thinking. Have we missed any obvious contenders? So I know there are a couple of other variants of some of the ones that we've mentioned here. I think there's another one of the E-Up Seat Mii Electric ones. I can't remember. I think there's another one of those.
There might be.
I can't remember which one it is, but those sorts of things. But yeah, I don't think we've missed any obvious ones. But and obviously, I should probably caveat this with all the numbers I've written down here. There may be typing errors. Some of these double check. If you're interested in any of these, double check yourself against the data on the internets. But yeah, that's I think more or less. Our conclusion is second-hand Fiat 500e, maybe BYD Seagull when that pops out.
I think that's going to be a case of see what the date is for that one, because if that's too far away, I think we are looking at more and more thinking that we probably want to do this fairly soon.
So maybe, because of course the other option is second-hand Fiat 500e, and in 2 years we replace it with something else.
And I think that's the big reason that has pushed me actually towards a second-hand car in this regard, because I do like having a new car, but that's because we've tended to keep the car. We know we're going to have it for 7, 8, 10 years. Put it this way,
the previous Jazz we had for 11 years.
Yeah.
I've had my current car for 8, 9.
And I'm happy to buy a new when you're going to have it for that long.
Yeah.
I don't know if we will for the car that we're getting now to, for me.
It's changing so quickly that it's probably not worth
sense.
It, is it? No, exactly.
It doesn't make sense to get a new car when you can get the second-hand cars that we're looking at. They've only got, you might get it one with 4,000 or 5,000 miles.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
For a huge amount off.
No.
It would be really silly not to look at that.
So that's what we're thinking. Let us know what you think. I think we're probably done there, aren't we?
I think so. I think that's enough.
Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.